$113,000 Perry Duckles of the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. $140,000 Public Defender Julie Cianca. My name is Chris Chichester. I live in Rochester, New York. This is the Freedom of Information Law, dated this August 15th, 2026, Saturday. The first three that I'm going to read, you have this information at the District Attorney's Office, Public Defender's Office. You have it. Send it to me. How many times do I have to ask you two civil servants? How many times do I have to ask you civil servants? So I'm using the word ask in a general way because there's a question here. I'm telling you to disclose the names of prosecutors at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office that have violated my civil and constitutional rights in Pennsylvania Court for John P. Menzo Jr. and Paul C. Metzer, New York State Supreme Court for Alex Renzi, whether you either failed to appear or didn't talk. Who is it? Freedom of Information Law, dated this Saturday, August 15, 2026. Documentation for the case for Christopher Charges with John P. Menzo Jr. in Pennsylvania Court. What is the name of the prosecutor? District Attorney Brian P. Green. You have this information. $113,000 Perry Duckles and $140,000 Public Defender Julie Cianca. Send it to me. Freedom of Information Law, dated August 15, 2026. Documentation for the case Christopher Charges before Paul C. Metzer in Pennsylvania Court. What is the name of the prosecutor? District Attorney Brian P. Green. You have this information. $113,000 Perry Duckles and $140,000 Public Defender Julie Cianca. Send it to me. Freedom of Information Law. Documentation for the case of Christopher Charges for Alex Renzi in New York State Supreme Court. What is the name of the prosecutor? District Attorney Brian P. Green. You have this information. Perry Duckles at $113,000 in the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. You have this information. Julie Cianca at $140,000 the Public Defender. Send it to me. This information District Attorney Brian P. Green has, and you do too, Perry Duckles, about the grand jury that's impaneled that I don't know exists. This repulsive hack, Michelle Crowley, turns me into her ham sandwich. Michelle Crowley of the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. When I pursue your disbarment, how do you answer this question? This citizen, Christopher Chichester, says he was indicted by you and he doesn't know the grand jury is convened, and you didn't call him to the grand jury and you didn't interview him in your office. He has no idea this grand jury is convened. How do you answer that question, Michelle Crowley? If in fact the disciplinary proceeding wants to talk to you, how's that answered? Because I hope I'm at such a proceeding for you, Michelle Crowley. Freedom of Information Law, dated this August 15, 2026. Information about the grand jury convened by District Attorney Sandra Dory to target Christopher Charges as 1, the day monthly the grand jury is convened; 2, the signed District Attorney's Office employee to address the grand jury; 3, the witness that testified to the grand jury; 4, the vote of the grand jurors; 5, transcript of the grand jury proceeding. Now, you don't have this information here. Information meaning a check, a dollar amount, at the District Attorney's Office, Public Defender's Office. But when I print out the language in the Gmail, it's going to accompany this with the YouTube. When I send this to Sheriff Todd Baxter, if he opens his mail, this coward and psychopath, he'll see this. Because I'm violently attacked by Richard Seidman, because Paul C. Metzer, this $28,000 bald-headed psychopathic fanatic and freaking degenerate, wants to send me to jail where it's not going to be Monroe County Jail. It's going to be Livingston County Jail in Geneseo. Freedom of Information Law, the issuance of a new check to Christopher Charges, the address below for expired check, the amount of $61.39, the County Monroe Office of Sheriff Inmate Fund account. That's the dollar amount pocket for Charges, and was violently attacked at Penfield Public Library, 75904 Rich C, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. This is my address here, 130 North Winton Road, Box 10184, Rochester, 14614. It's on the floor. That's attached in PDF. That's 5. This is the last one. The last one, 6. The quote, defective documents, end quote, for the case of Dan Gloucester and Penfield Court for John P. Menzo Jr. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I just read 6. It's real simple. I've sent 80 to Sheriff Todd Baxter and former District Attorney Sandra Dory, Alex Renzi, Paul C. Menzo, James P. Menzo Jr. and Penfield Court. I hear nothing. 6 I read. It's real simple what corruption is. 0, as I point to you with the official finger of Brooklyn, New York. A reason why you behave like freaks and psychopaths, degenerates and fanatics, where you're alienated from the law and alienated from the truth and alienated from decency, is all you know is Monroe County. Since I do not know you personally, but I know how long you've been at the District Attorney's Office, the Public Defender's Office, and I read your biographies, I have a reasonably strong idea that you've been in Monroe County your whole life. You don't know anything about your own state. Because I am from Long Island, where I attended SUNY Stony Brook, and I went to Center Reach High School. And my mother and father are from Brooklyn, and my grandparents are from Queens. And I've been to Manhattan 200 times, especially when a restaurant and bar called Serendipity was there in Manhattan. I used to go in there with my friend Jeff Vandak. I've been all over New York. I lived and worked in Albany, New York for 10 years. I live in Rochester now. I went to SUNY Fredonia for 2 years before I enlisted in the Army. I have been all over New York. I know every inch of New York. I've been up to Lake Placid. I've been to Binghamton. I saw Bruce Springsteen in Syracuse. I'm not saying you don't have those experiences where you can travel to the state of New York, but I have been all over the state of New York, both in traveling the state of New York and living in different places. Long Island, New York City, Albany, Rochester, New York, which is a driving force reason why I'm not a provincial, limited freak that's lived in Monroe County for the last 30, 40, 50 years. Provincial limited freak. It's going to be zero. Did you hear the vehicles going by out here on South Union Street? I'm going to tell you where I am, Todd, baby. Sheriff Todd Baxter, this is where I am. I'm on the 4th floor, 417. You know, if you can get up here on the 4th floor, the key fob, or if you can just ask one of the employees, you know, you can send one of these psychopaths and freaks to pound on my door, because that's happened with the Monroe County Sheriffs. Just have them stand right outside 417 and have them just pound on my door, you know, for 15 minutes, because that's happened to me in 26 seconds from driving Penfield, where you just pounded on my door. You know, there's 5 Monroe County Sheriffs on my backyard screaming my name. So you can pound on my door. You could go right out here on South Union Street, the freak show of this driving here, where traffic laws are not enforced by RPD Chief David Smith or Sheriff Todd Baxter. Sheriff Todd Baxter is not in Rochester, New York. You know, you can have your freaks and psychopaths right down here on South Union Street, you know, screaming and yelling my name, because, you know, I'll hear you when you're screaming and yelling. So this is where I am, Sheriff Todd Baxter. So here I am right here, 270, Senator Richard Seatman over here to run at me and slam me in the head. And then when I fall down, my head will slam against the concrete pavement. And then the frequent Seatman with him can kick me when I'm down on the ground, because that's exactly what happened in Penfield Public Library. Or you can send some unidentified Monroe County Sheriff Office employee, like he did at Penfield Wegmans, to run at me and slam me in the head and knock me down. And, you know, I'll be surrounded by 10 Monroe County Sheriff Office employees. That's happened to me. It's a policy message. So, Sheriff Todd Baxter, this is where I am. You can be here tomorrow. When I go for my run tomorrow morning, 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, which, you know, Monroe County Sheriff Office employees don't do that because they're, you know, half of them are 40 pounds overweight. But when I go for a run in the morning, just have them waiting outside for me and tell them to violently attack me. I'm in the process, Sheriff Todd Baxter, of finding out if you could be charged with a crime by unleashing your Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees who you supervise and have the power to terminate their employment. If you're culpable, if you're legally responsible for these freaks and degenerates that have violently attacked me over and over. So I do not know the answer to that yet, given the law in New York, but I'm interested to learn what the answer is that if you are legally responsible, your Monroe County Sheriff Office employees like Richard Seaton in the Penfield Public Library, the unidentified Monroe County Sheriff Office employee violently attacking me, if you, Sheriff Todd Baxter, can be charged with a crime in that regard. So that's where I am. So I'm on here in 8 minutes. I haven't heard any sirens going by here from this corrupt racket, American Medical Response, in Albany, New York, where I lived for 5 years, in Albany County for 10 years, in Washington, D.C., where I lived for 5 years. Not siren after siren after siren going through the city. Where I lived at 111 C Street next to the United States Capitol, or 600 Constitution Avenue, 15 minutes to the United States Capitol. I'd walk into work through the United States Capitol to the Senate Russell Building. I'm not passing siren after siren. There's not some AMR racket. The Washington, D.C. Fire Department's not passing me. The Washington, D.C. Police is not passing me. When I would drive from 157 Winthrop Avenue in Albany, New York, to the New York State Capitol, I'm not passing the Albany Police Department, Albany Fire Department, siren after siren. That's not happening. Doesn't that concern you? I'm going to use the Freedom of Information Law to find out what this AMR racket is, and also what the policy is in the city of Rochester, where these sirens are everywhere, where half of them are at least not emergencies. I'm absolutely confident half the time a siren is used in Rochester, New York, given how frequent it is, it's not an emergency. And shouldn't that concern you with the district attorney's office and sheriff's office? about what these freaks and psychopaths, degenerates are doing at this AMR racket and RFD? The 99% KKK white Rochester Fire Department and the Rochester Police Department. The Rochester Police Department that has murdered a citizen in the street. So I'm sure Sheriff Todd Baxter didn't think anything about that. They're just doing their jobs because the Blue Wall Silence was activated. That's why. Yeah, he's a big Christian, Todd Baxter, unleashing his Monroe County Sheriff Office employees to attack me, and then he doesn't matter to him that happens. He's such a beautiful Christian, Todd Baxter. You see him talk about his faith? He's a total phony. He'll say anything. So I was locked out twice at 275 Park Avenue and 26 Sanders Farm Drive by Antonio Spano Fairport, New York. So I have some writing on here because I've been helped over and over. Department of Veterans Affairs Homeless Program Services. I was given this by Robert Valente and Pepper Lasiski, the United States Department of Veterans Affairs. This homeless program location, 260 Calkins Road, Rochester. I've been down there over and over, Calkins Road, where they have helped me. And I had to have help because I was locked out. That's why. It's not that I'm going over there and asking for help. When you have nowhere to go, I had to go here to Calkins. And I had to go to, guess where, Sheriff Todd Baxter? Because perhaps you've heard of this place on South Avenue. It's the Veterans Outreach Center. Because when I was locked out the second time, I went into the Veterans Outreach Center and I talked to Trevor. Trevor's the one that helped arrange for me to go to Farmington, New York, where I was in a shelter there because I was locked out at 275 Park Avenue. I have not written that complaint. When I write the complaint from What Properties for locking me out at 275 Park Avenue, where the address is 434 Oxford Street, Rochester, New York, and Trevor Jonas helped me and other employees at the Veterans Outreach Center. You know what's going to happen? You know what Todd Baxter is going to do when Rochester Police Department Chief David Smith about Morton Properties at 434 Oxford Street, locking me out? Not a goddamn thing. So I'll be going here to the excellent Lena's on East Avenue on Monday, and I'm going to see the homeless freak out here screaming and yelling. These people are everywhere, and they are nowhere in Washington, D.C., and Albany, New York. When you go to a convenience store, there isn't some homeless freaking psychopath, some street person out there panhandling right in front of you. And there's one thing for them to ask for money and walk by, you have no contact. It's another thing like this freak does, who is yelling and screaming and who is right next to you. And I'm trying to control myself because I'm raising my voice how angry I am because the Rochester Police Department ignores the law. It's a crime in the state for 100 years to panhandle. And these panhandlers are violent. Perhaps you've heard the name Donald Brown and Ronald Brown, who were panhandlers, who then committed this heinous criminal act of murdering Armani Allen next to the transit center. My guess is that Donald Brown and Ronald Brown were panhandling for weeks and months before that murder happened, and the Rochester Police Department of Chief David Smith and all those Kool-Aid drinkers at the Rochester Police Department ignored Donald Brown and Ronald Brown. So Lena's Deli. They're really terrific. I love going there. She's so friendly and nice. Hi, hon. Reminds me of New York City. The reason why I mention these type of street people is I went into CVS on Park Avenue when I lived at 275 Park. This is one of the last times I was there, and this is really alarming. And again, the Rochester Police Department is in total oblivion about these types of crimes. The Monroe County Sheriff's Office is total oblivion because they're not in Rochester. They're not Park Avenue. I think I saw in the 30 months I lived in Park Avenue maybe a handful of times a Monroe County Sheriff's Office vehicle on Park Avenue. So I go into the CVS. Again, the employees are just excellent, really friendly, want to help you all the time. I go to the back. This is a large CVS. I was really surprised at how large it was. It's like a mini Wegmans. So I get what I need, my usual stuff. I've been going in there for well over a year. And I'm standing at the register. And then I hear running in an aisle who was the employee because she sees who just came into the store, perhaps on a camera. And his name is Austin. So Austin comes into the store. He goes past me where the candy is, and he starts grabbing the candy off the rack and putting it in his pocket. He had a bag. He's putting things in his pocket. Here comes the CVS employee running toward him to stop him. And she puts his hands on him. This Austin pushes her away. Then the employee behind the counter picks up the phone and dials 911. And he pushed her away there. This is violent confrontation where she's trying to stop this Austin from shoplifting at CVS on Park Avenue, where I'm standing there. I was not in fear because I've seen this behavior before. but at the 7-Eleven, which is right across the street. And I'm thinking, all right, what should I do here? And then he left. It was really quick, about 15, 20 seconds, where she tried to detain him. He put his hands on her, pushed her away, and they called 911. That doesn't happen in other cities I've lived in Albany, North, and Washington. You never see that. And then when he left, the CVS employee who was behind the counter says to me, he just got out of jail, which that has to be Monroe County Jail. She didn't say he just got out of Monroe County Jail. I remember this vividly, this happening. And I'm thinking RPD is right there at that 7-Eleven. They could be easily walking up and down Park Avenue, walking the designated beat of patrol, which the police don't do in Rochester, New York. And here this crime happened. This could have been really serious. She could have been really hurt. This CVS employee was trying to do the right thing and detain him. That's the freak show of Rochester, New York. So, over and over, I've been helped. What are the names of my prosecutors? Who is it? How many times do I have to tell you? May 7th, this is where this bald-headed, skin-headed fascist is still, which doesn't matter to Sheriff Todd Baxter. Doesn't matter to Brian P. Green either. It doesn't matter to you, Perry Duckles. Doesn't matter to you, Julie Cianca. May 7th, 2026, Todd Baxter, Sheriff Brian P. Green. One judge can destroy a life in 5 minutes. Does that fact matter to you? There are times where I'll just go with the simplicity of 1 or 2 sentences, and there are times where I'll write 1,000 words. I talked about one judge right here. One judge, the corruption of Sheriff Todd Baxter and District Attorney Sandra Dorling on February 20th, 2023. You don't want to hear from the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Pembroke Town Court, New York State Supreme Court? Not a goddamn thing. So I read those 6 Freedom of Information Law documents here. I know you were told there would be no math. One of my favorite jokes of all time. So 6, that's Chevy Chase doing President Gerald Ford. 0 you're going to comply with, because the law is a joke to you. So the criminal complaints on this August 15th, what is the status of the 5 criminal complaints I wrote for Richard J. Sieben, Nayron Shah, Len Kumar Shah, Laura Riley, Antonio Spano, Michael Houlihan, as it's now 7:28 p.m. on this August 15th. So when I say that I sent you those 4 criminal complaints, so if I point to you, this is August 15th. You see that there, Federal Express, August 15th. Now, Todd, baby, you should be able to see your name along with District Attorney here. There's your name, Sheriff Todd Baxter. You see? Sheriff Todd Baxter. There's Alex Renzi. There's Michael DiGiacomo. Sheriff Todd Baxter, I wrote these criminal complaints that are right here. That you've ignored. This law's a joke to you. That's why. These are crimes, which is my exact language right here. These are crimes. July 22nd, 2023. I'm going to write this again. I'm going to update this with more language, greater language, more specific language. Attached are 4 criminal claims with this language that Richard J. Sieben of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office walked into Penfield Public Library in Penfield, New York, ran Christopher Chichester, slammed his arm at the head of Chichester, causing him to fall backwards and hit his head on the ceramic tile floor. Nayron Shah, Layla Kumar Shah, 2033 Penfield, New York, 14526, falsely reporting an incident of Christopher Chichester, forming 26 centimeters from drive, and his walk through a parking lot next to his residence. 3, Antonio Spano, Fairport, New York, locked the front and back doors to the residence, 26 centimeters from drive, in Penfield, New York, without a court order. Laura Ride, Webster, New York, transport the personal belongings of Christopher Chichester, 26 centimeters from drive, in Penfield, New York, to a storage locker in Webster, New York, without a court order. These are crimes. These will not be arrested or prosecuted. There was a 1 day in jail served for these crimes that destroyed my life because you're incapable of identifying crime. You caught crimes for innocent citizens. You hate human condition. 2 links. YouTube rejection for 113-918-42 Perry Duckles, 112-508-75 Mark Monahan. YouTube unconstitutional. Sheriff Todd Baxter, District Attorney San Antonio, Judge Alex Renzi resigned. Christopher Chichester, my old UPS box at 620 Park Avenue. Unconstitutional. I think it's unconstitutional to be in jail and being held in jail when a prosecutor doesn't make an argument in court, a violently attacked by Richard Sieben, and then driven out of Monroe County and Livingston County because Paul C. Metzler, as one person, one little Penfield Town Court, 1985 Bad Road, wants to send me to jail. It's not going to be Monroe County jail. Is that constitutional? Can a judge anywhere in Monroe County send you out of Monroe County to any of the 61 counties? Because if I could be delivered to Livingston County, well, why can't I be delivered to Suffolk County or Nassau County? Why? How's that constitutional? Is it? I don't know. I'm not saying that's unconstitutional. I have a strong suspicion or opinion that it is. So, again, the law's a joke to Sheriff Todd Baxter. Here's my language about the criminal complaint. That's my language for Richard Seaman. I'm signing my name here saying he violently attacked me. They were shot, and Luke Kumar shot a 50-year-old psychopath who lives with his mother. I'm signing my name after I wrote it out. He's saying that he falsely reported this incident to Tom Baxter, blows up the law, the Notary Public, Christopher Ben Price, Monroe Branch of Rochester Public Library, Antonio Spano. Here, I'm saying that he violated the law, locking me out without a court order, where I'm correct. That's against the law. It's a violation of laws in the state of New York. Saying Antonio Spano locked me out. I'm signing my name here. Probably the most difficult thing I've ever had to do this to Laura Riley, who is now a criminal, which I hate thinking about her like that, but everything's gone because of her. Taking all my things to stores. Like when our relationship ends, and there she is in my residence at 26 Sanders Drive because she wants a bookcase that I told her that she doesn't own. So when Antonio Spano, my landlord, contacted her, she's thinking the wheels are turning. Now I can get the bookcase. So she went into my residence, took out a bookcase that I had in my possession with my books on. When my books are gone, and my bookcase is taken back to where she lives in Webster, where I helped her move. And we had no discussion whatsoever about this bookcase. And perhaps if you still listen to me in 21 minutes, you'd be thinking, don't be so ridiculous. Who cares? I care. It's my bookcase that was in my possession. And I'm going to write a criminal complaint about that because I'm confident that's some kind of thievery. And I'm going to try to recover my bookcase from her. This here, language. Probably the hardest language I ever had to write in my life. I was sitting down with the pen right here, writing this language right here. I had to keep it together. Especially when I was signing my name to it, too. Well, I didn't have to keep it together. Where it was real easy to write it is for this freaking psychopath right here. Michael Houlihan, criminal claim for perjury, 73312 Michael C. Houlihan, Monroe County Sheriff's Office. Michelle Crowley, why don't you call me to the grand jury? Because I would have said this right here, and then you could ask me question after question after question, Michelle Crowley. I would have sat there for as long as you wanted. If you wanted me in that box for 60 minutes, I would have sat there for 60 minutes. If you wanted me in that box for 90 minutes, I would have sat there for 90 minutes, however long you wanted. But the truth is a joke to you, you fucking psychopath and freak, Michelle Crowley, as I'm your ham sandwich, and this is why. That 73312 Michael C. Houlihan, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, walked onto private property across from the residence 26 Sanders from Drive, Pempton, New York, Christopher Chichester. That Houlihan ran to Chichester approximately 1 a.m. with $85,000 down Benedetto, the Sheriff's Office. Chichester ran away from Houlihan and Benedetto, went away. He died in these. Chichester grabbed a hammer alongside his residence next to his bike, used to fix a bike tire. As Chichester placed his foot on the first 3 steps the back porch, Houlihan grabbed his arm, the hammer. Chichester's hands forced upwards. Chichester ran across his back porch through his sliding glass door. Chichester never stopped running his possible swing the hammer at 73312 Michael C. Houlihan. As Chichester never stopped running, it's impossible to swing the hammer at 73312 Michael C. Houlihan. And what do you fail to understand, former director of the grand jury promoted Michelle Crowley? I can't swing a hammer at this fucking idiot freak when I'm running away. The profession in the United States of America where swearing happens all the time by its employees is the police. Because I've heard Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees swearing as I'm an innocent man in Monroe County Jail. And I certainly heard Rochester Police Department employees swearing when they're at the public market or at the Lilac Festival. They're even at Rochester Wegmans games. They have a 24/7 presence at East Avenue Wegmans. A joke, a disgrace. I'm constantly taking pictures of these disgusting, repulsive Jonestown Kool-Aid drinkers of the Rochester Police Department that refuse to do police work, where every day they're at East Avenue Wegmans. They're constantly in places where there are no criminal acts. A Rochester Wegmans game? What's the vehicle doing right there? I'm buying a ticket, I'm looking right at the vehicle. A joke, a disgrace? I'm confident the Rochester Police Department, David Smith, is one of the most corrupt police departments in all of the state of New York. Sheriff Todd Baxter, this is where I am here. Send Richard Seaman over here, 270 on East. Tell him to run at me. Slam his arm to the side of my head. I'll fall down on the concrete outside South Union Street. Hopefully I won't get run over by one of the 20 or 30 dirt bike riders these teenagers going by here where the law is not enforced by the Monroe County Sheriff's Office or Rochester Police Department. So if Richard see a violent taxi and I fall down on the ground, I hope a pack of 30 minors on their motorcycles, aren't coming by at that time to run me over. I can make light of that, but that's a disgrace. They're constantly all over the city. And I'm in the process of finding out, can a minor ride a mini bike or motorcycle on streets in a city? Yesterday, I was walking down East Avenue, East Alexander Street. So here I am on East Avenue. As I'm approaching Alexander Street, I see the minor on a bike. I know exactly what the minor looks like. This is about 14 or 15 years old. And then when he got off the bike, as he's coming across to walk the bike down the sidewalk on East Avenue, I looked at him. He's about 5'2". He was shorter than me. And I was really shocked at how large this bike was that this minor was riding. And he was alone. They ride in packs of 15, 20, 25. Where are you, Sheriff Todd Baxter? I'm going to contact RPD Chief David Smith about this. I have seen previous photographs of how RPD, not recently, but over a year ago, how some of these bikes are confiscated or impounded. Well, they're still out there. Can a minor be arrested for riding these packs? I don't know. I'm not saying a minor should be arrested or anything like that. But certainly, a pack of 20, 25 minors on motorcycles on South Union Street or East Main Street or East Avenue is dangerous. And they're also standing on the seat of the motorcycle to ride it in traffic. The law's not enforced by Sheriff Todd Baxter because he's not in Rochester, New York. The law's not enforced by Rochester Police Department Chief David Smith because he's corrupt. That's why. So, what's not to understand, employees? 6 free informational documents. 6. Send it to me. Send me the names of my prosecutors' assailants. What's not to understand, Perry Duckles? Because you should understand exactly what I'm talking about. Perry Duckles.
Perry Duckles of the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. Do you know the name Vincent Bugliosi? He's a prosecutor that convicted Charles Manson. His summation to the jury is 10,000 plus words that I've read. Do you know the name Marsha Clark? Perry Duckles. Marsha Clark talked in court along with Christopher Darden in the trial of O.J. Simpson. They were unsuccessful, but they exercised the First Amendment. Right. Do you, Perry Duckles, know the name Mike Nifon? Mike Nifon talked in court, too, when he smashed the civil and constitutional rights of Duckles cross players into a million little pieces. You know all those names. I cite those names that are famous because prosecutors talk to court, Perry Duckles. How am I in jail 6 times? And 6 times a prosecutor doesn't talk in court or doesn't even appear. This has happened to me in front of John P. Lomenzo Jr. in Penfield Town Court, Paul C. Metzler in Penfield Town Court, and Alex Renzi in New York State Supreme Court. And you should know that name, Perry Duckles, because Alex Renzi is a former employee of the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. What do you think about what I just said to you, Perry Duckles, about how I've been in jail 6 times, and 6 times there is total silence from the prosecutors at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office? And look at my face, Perry Duckles. This is anger that has to be controlled and managed because of the fanaticism of your party-switching boss, Sandra Dorley, and party-switching Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. I'm also being violently attacked before I'm being deposited in jail, and then I'm being violently attacked when I'm in jail. Perry Duckles. What are the names of my prosecutors? For 18 months, I used the Freedom of Information law to force your boss, District Attorney Sandra Dorley, to disclose the names of my prosecutors because I seek to disbar each with the appellate division of New York State Supreme Court. And she's refusing to comply with the law. The hypocrisy of you, Perry Duckles, and your boss, Sandra Dorley, is disgusting and sickening. You use a document like the Freedom of Information Law or other documents to obtain information in criminal cases. And I'm using a freedom of information law upon you to obtain information, simple information, such as the names of my prosecutors, and information that's not so simple, such as has your boss used taxpayer dollars to settle employment-related discrimination lawsuits, because I'd seek to obtain information about sexual harassment at the district attorney's office. So Perry Duckles, you have my email. I have multiple emails. Tell me the names of my prosecutors. Silence, Perry Duckles. And what I'm going to hear from you, Perry Duckles, is silence.
Tell me the names of my prosecutors. Silence, Perry Duckles. And what I'm going to hear from you is silence. My name is Christopher Chichester. I live in Rochester, New York. I have been an innocent man for my whole life.